Welcome to Section 3. Section 3 is about the PRINCE2 processes. We have 7 processes in PRINCE2 Project Management. We will understand them and also see how they are adapted or tailored for Agile. Also, every process has certain workshops. We will get to know about them also in detail. This section is covered in 5 parts. In the first part, we will cover processes and their Agile tailoring, meaning what are those 7 PRINCE2 Project Management processes and how they are tailored or adapted for Agile. In the exam, there will be 10 questions from the processes and their workshops. So not just part 1, but all the 5 parts combined together. Let's begin with part 1, those processes and their Agile tailoring. PRINCE2 works on the basis of those 7 processes. Every process has certain activities, and together these 7 processes run from start to finish of the project. It is not necessary that these processes have to be run in a certain sequence. There is an approximate sequence, but there can be some going back and forth among these processes also. In a PRINCE2 process, we will have activities. However, a PRINCE2 project and its life cycle has an initiation stage and then one or more subsequent stages for delivery of the products. So typically, we may have a project life cycle with an initiation stage followed by certain more delivery stages, and then a last and final delivery stage, including the closure of the project, which will be performed in the last stage as well. And these stages together form the project life cycle. At the start, there is also some pre-project work before the initiation stage begins. And once the initiation stage completes successfully, then it goes into the subsequent stages, one or more subsequent stages for delivering the product. Now, it's possible there is just one delivery stage in which there is some product delivery as well as the closure of the project. And in that case, we will have a PRINCE2 project with the pre-project work, and then the project begins with the initiation stage and just one more stage for delivering and closure. The 7 processes are named here. These are starting up a project, directing a project, initiating a project, controlling a stage, managing product delivery, managing a stage boundary, and closing a project. In this picture, we see on the left side, we see the 3 levels, one on top of the other. We have the directing level at the top, working within the project board, the managing level, which is the project manager, and the delivering level, which is the one or more product owners. And above the directing level, we have the business or the commissioning layer, which is outside the project management team. However, they too play a role in the project. And if you look at the top row there, the pre-project is the sort of pre-project work. It is not a stage of a PRINCE2 project, but once the pre-project is over, then the first stage, named the initiation stage, will occur. And then afterwards, we will need to have at least one more stage for delivery, which can also be the project closure, but typically we will have one or more subsequent stages for delivery, and then the last final stage, which will include delivery of product as well as the closure of the project. We also see the processes in the pink rectangles. So we can see, for example, the starting up a project overlaps between the directing and managing level, which means both the project board and project manager are involved in this process. And it happens only in the pre-project work. Whereas directing a project, we can see this pink bar going across from left to right, meaning it is used at the end of the pre-project work, and then it runs in all the other stages until the final one and until the project closes. There are some which is only with the managing level, with the project manager, which is managing a stage boundary and initiating a project. The initiating a project occurs only once in the initiation stage and not after that. But the managing a stage boundary is happening at the end of each stage. So it happens at the end of the initiation stage and also triggered at the end of each subsequent delivery stage, but it doesn't exist or is triggered in the final stage, because then we have closing a project process that is triggered. So these are all run by the project manager. However, if you notice at the very bottom, we have the managing product delivery owned by the product owner or run by the product owners at the delivering level, and in the delivery stages known as subsequent stages and the final stage. So there's a close sync or synchronization between the managing product delivery and the controlling stage process throughout the delivery stages. Let us begin by understanding the purpose of each of these processes and certain objectives or what typically happens. So here, the purpose of starting up a project is to ensure that prerequisites for initiating a project are established by answering the question, do we have a viable and worthwhile project? I had to read this properly because in the exam, because the foundation exam is a theory exam or an understanding type of exam, you need to remember some of these keywords. So prerequisites for initiating. What that means is once the starting up a project is successful, the project board will then approve the movement to initiating a project process in the initiation stage. And this process is typically a quick check on, is this project worth performing, worth planning, even planning before even executing, given on the given the risks, benefits, and investment. It's a quick check, though, not a very thorough check, because it's more focused on whether we should go into planning or not. It prevents, meaning there are some benefits of this process. It prevents inconceived or ill-conceived ideas from entering full-scale planning. And there is some basic project background information captured in this process. And even some of the key project roles and responsibilities are identified and even appointed if possible. For example, at least there should be a project executive and project manager and possibly the senior user. In PRINCE2 Agile, we call that role the chief product owner. But then the other roles such as project assurance and the product owners and others not necessarily appointed in this process during the pre-project work. There is some sort of very high level plan, but it's a basis for the planning afterwards, which will happen only in the initiation stage. So it's a very lightweight process. It should be quick. So for example, in a 1 year long project, this process should take probably just 2 weeks, maybe a little more, that's all. And eventually it'll help in deciding whether to proceed to the initiation stage or not, provided if it's approved by the project board using the directing a project process. Every PRINCE2 project is triggered by something known as a project mandate, typically somebody from the business layer or the commissioning layer above the project board, before even the board exists. And so they would be thinking about an opportunity to pursue or to resolve some internal problem or challenge, and that becomes the project mandate. So they might, for example, want to initiate some work to improve profits or revenues or whatever, or maybe roll out some innovative product which might be a good opportunity to sell in the market. This is known as a project mandate. And when they do this, they also find out who could be a project executive who can help work with them and be part of the project board. And the project executive will even appoint a project manager because some initial documentation work will be needed in order to get that approved to proceed further into the initiation stage. So the project mandate can also be a feasibility study, a proposal request. There are some good examples of mandate. For example, the HR department might want to become digital, or there may be some plans to expand the supply chain. So these are all project mandates issued by the business layer. And the business layer is outside the project management team, but they are still connected with the project as a project organization, but not as a project management team. Then, so whatever minimum information is captured by the project manager and the project executive and approved by the project board, by the end of this process, that information is generated and it is approved by the project board in the directing a project process. And if that happens, then the initiating a project process will be triggered, which means that the project will move into the initiation stage for detailed planning.